Hey guys, welcome to another watercolor swatching and review video. I have wanted to check out these Shinhan PWC watercolors for a while. They are the cheapest professional grade paints available at any of my main art stores, and as far as I can tell, they're typically quite affordable. I actually ended up picking all these up on 20% off through Desserts. Shinhan is a Korean art company that offers 3 tiers of watercolors. The PWC line, where the P stands for premium, has 84 colors, the professional line, which has 30 colors, and the SWC or Xiaomi line, which is student grade and has 24 colors. With the PWC and professional lines, they claim to use quote, pure pigments and high-grade gum arabic. The PWC line is also supposed to have the highest degree of light fastness and a maximum degree of transparency. I chose my colors based on those I thought would be good to compare against colors I already have, but also some paints that I don't have. I also tried to pick colors that were more light fast, though Shinhan doesn't use the ASTM rating system for their paints. Instead, they use a star rating where 3 stars is excellent light fastness, 2 stars is high light fastness, and so on. Pyrrole Red is one of those colors I didn't have in my collection. It is a fire engine red, warmer than any red I own, and incredibly intense. It's also not as transparent as they claim. I would consider it semi-transparent at best, but I wasn't really expecting it to be since the pigment, PR254, tends to be semi-opaque. This color made really beautiful velvety mixes, which I will show you in a bit. It also easily overpowers other colors. It also didn't scan very well. I didn't own any professional line oranges in my collection, and although it's not a color I use often, it's one of those convenience colors that it seems like I should have at least one of. Brilliant Orange is a very basic orange, like a Crayola crayon orange. It's labeled as transparent, but it isn't quite there. It's closer than Piro Red, but it's still kind of off. It's made using PO16, which is hard to find any information on. Handprint doesn't have it listed, and Color of Art's pigment database lists it as fugitive. But Shinhan PWC claims it has excellent light fastness, so I don't know, I may need to test these. I knew I wanted to pick up a yellow so I could create some mixes, but I couldn't figure out which one to choose. None in their line are very transparent, and those that weren't very light fast. I ended up with Permanent Yellow Deep since I figured the warm yellow would play better with Pyrrole Red. It's very similar to my Hansa Yellow Deep from Da Vinci, which is my only other warm yellow to refer to. This one was way more transparent than I expected, on par with the Brilliant Orange. And I know raw sienna is an earth tone, but it is fairly yellow, so I thought I would include it here. I don't own many earth tones in my collection, especially in professional quality, and I figured a raw sienna would be handy for mixing skin tones, which it is. I'll get to that in a bit. This is not a perfectly transparent color, but it's better than the 3 preceding it. I actually like this color much more than I expected. It's sort of a caramel brown. I didn't have anything in my collection like it before. Okay, so the next 2, the blues, are messed up, which I didn't realize until after I started swatching and was like, wait a jiffy, this PB29 looks an awful lot like PB15:3. This is actually Peacock Blue, which is another name frequently given to Fallow Blue green shade. This color was as transparent as they claimed, though they only mark it as high light fastness. PB15:3 is a fairly light fast pigment, so I'm not too concerned. I own the M-gram version of this, which is much deeper in the mass tone and slightly less cyan. The Shinhan PWC version feels much less powerful, but I only have the M-gram to compare it to, and I don't really think it's fair to compare it to M-gram. This is Fallow Blue Red shade created with PB29. You may know the pigment PB29 from such classics as Ultramarine Blue, French Ultramarine, Ultramarine Light, Ultramarine Deep, and Ultramarine Finest in literally every other brand ever. As far as I can tell, Phthalo Blue is often made with PB15, you know, the pigment that is literally named phthalocyanine blue. Shinhan's Fallow Blue Red shade doesn't really feel like my Daniel Smith version, but it also doesn't really feel like Holbein's Ultramarine Deep. It feels kind of slightly greener than either of those, and it isn't as deep in the mass tone either. As weird as that one was, the weirdest color is Cobalt Violet Light. I really was excited for this one. I was hoping for a pigmented, super granulating color, but this one has a bizarre texture to it. Maybe it's got too much binder, I don't know. It's almost like it's kind of gelatinous. I did try to swatch it again when I was playing around with the colors in my watercolor journal, and I had the same experience. In the dried swatch, you can see my attempt at glazing ended up with a streaky mess. It's a pretty color, it just applies really strangely. But it is super transparent, so it has that going for it. I didn't think the mixes would turn out as nicely as they did, so I didn't do like a proper color wheel or anything. I was mostly just playing around at first. This first mix is Pyrrole Red with Permanent Yellow Deep, which created this kind of a peachy orange with a vivid orange-red mass tone. Next, I mixed Piro Red with Fallow Blue Red shade, which I expected to be kind of ugly, but it turned into this deep, inky, burgundy purple that kind of makes me think of the Perylene colors. Alternatively, I added a bit more blue and I ended up with this really deep, almost like a slate blue, kind of more of a navy blue. Just to see what would happen, I took my first mix of Pyrrole Red and Permanent Yellow Deep, which was that vivid orange red, and I added Peacock Blue, which created another deep inky shade. This one is a forest green, kind of a bit on the cooler shade, almost turquoise. Peacock Blue and Permanent Yellow Deep created this much warmer grass green, which kind of looks similar to a sap or a hooker's green. And then these last two are my couple of Skintone mixes. One involved a ton of trial and error before I got something even remotely similar to skin. I used, I believe, Pyrrole Red and Permanent Yellow Deep, and I think a bit of Peacock Blue, maybe, possibly, to kind of mute it down a bit. The second mix is way simpler, and I think it turned out a lot better. It's a mix of raw sienna and Pyrrole Red to warm it up a bit. So, in closing, I am pleasantly surprised by the Shinhan PWC colors, and also a little confounded. They aren't on par with Daniel Smith or M. Graham for me, but they're still really beautiful colors that mix well and they have a great consistency, aside from the Cobalt Violet Light. I do plan on using them in an upcoming painting, so keep an eye out for that within the next few weeks. There don't appear to be many artists who have tried these paints. The only one I can think of is, I think her name is Ashia. I'll link her down below in the YouTube description box thingamabob. And I think also Teo has reviewed them, so I will link his blog down below as well. So, do you have any experiences with Shinhan? Leave it down below in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider leaving a like and subscribing. I make new art videos every Friday. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!